and thank you for joining me today for our Teen Craft program. My name is Stacy and I'm the Teen Services Librarian at the Neighbor Boulevard Library. And today I'm going to show you how to make these really cute yarn hat ornaments. And you can see here are my two samples. You can do a lot of different things with this craft using different kinds of yarn, different kind of pom-poms. It is a really creative, fun little craft that you can then use to decorate around the house, or you can add a little string and have a cute little ornament. So I'm going to show you everything you're going to need to do this craft. Alright, here's everything you're going to need to do this craft today. If you were able to sign up ahead of time for one of our craft kits, you have everything you needed included except for a few things you should have at home. But if you didn't sign up for one of these or they were full, I'm going to show you everything that you need to do this craft at home. So all you're going to need are some simple supplies here. You're going to need some yarn, and this is a really good opportunity to maybe use some yarn you have sitting around, maybe get rid of your stash, things like that. Any sort of yarn, any weight you want. You're going to need to cut at least 20 to 25 pieces of about 8 to 9 inches length of our yarn. So ruler comes in handy for that. And you're going to set those aside, and like you said, you could even cut as you go if you want to make sure you're not wasting yarn or whatever. Everybody, depending on the thickness of your yarn, will be different as how many you're going to need. So besides that, you're also going to need, if you have any of these little fun little pom-poms hanging around for the top of our hats, you're going to need a little tiny piece of felt, which we're going to use to cover the bottom of our hats so that the yarn doesn't fall out. So if you have any scraps around like that, that's good as well. You're going to need a toilet paper or a paper towel roll as so, save some of those. A ruler, like I said, if you're cutting your yarn, or if you want to be really precise when we cut our rings off this later. Writing instrument, pencil, pen, whatever you've got handy. And then some string for if you want to hang your lovely little hat ornament. This is just some silver thread that I have sitting around, but fishing line, any sort of thinner string would work so that it isn't sort of visible while you're hanging it. And then you're going to need your handy pair of scissors, and you're going to need some sort of gluing implement. You can use hot glue, or you can use just plain old white glue, whatever you have laying around. Both works great. So let's clean up this workspace and get started. Alrighty, so now my workspace is clear and we are ready to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to take our paper towel roll or toilet paper roll that we have, and we are going to cut the rings that are going to make the brim of our hat here. So when you're cutting this, I would say you don't want it more than 3/4 of an inch, half an inch or so. You can use your ruler and be super, super precise here and, measure all the way around so that you're cutting it where you want. I am not that good at being precise when it comes to that, so we're going to eyeball it and see what happens here. So let's go ahead and make those little marks here, and you're going to kind of want to squeeze it a little bit to cut it, and it's okay. We're going to reshape it as we're going, and you're just going to cut straight across to get pretty equal circumference of a ring here. So that's not so bad. Look at that. Not so bad here. And if you decide, maybe that's a little thick, you can also go ahead and trim it a bit as well. I think maybe I'll trim it just a little bit because I like my hat brims a little bit thinner. But once again, however you'd like it. And there you go. And that's going to make the brim of our hat here that we are going to wrap our yarn around. So if you haven't already cut your yarn, you're going to want to go ahead and cut, like I said, about 20 to 25 pieces of about 8 to 9 inches. And if in your craft kit you have them sort of bunched up all together here, you can do alternating stripes if you want, like this. You can just do all of one color. You can just do random. The choice is yours. It's really simple to decide based on what you have left over or sitting around. So we are then, once we have a whole bunch of our yarn cut or set aside, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping our little ring. So what we're going to do is we are going to fold this yarn in half, like so. Hopefully you can see it, so I picked the yellow. And we are going to wrap it around our ring. And we're going to want to make sure that while we're doing this, that we do it the same all the way around. So what I like to do is put it through like here, and then I'm going to pull the ends in like so until you have this little dangly loop, okay? And the longer your yarns are, the more you'll have sort of hanging out over there, and that's super cool, no worries. But you are gonna wanna make sure you do this exact same step over and over and over until you have your whole cardboard ring covered. So we're gonna do it again and make sure that you do it the same way. So I'm gonna do it the opposite way here so you can see what happens. So you see, I did this one and it's not the right way. I didn't make sure that I was putting my stuff in the same. So you wanna make sure that you loop in from the same side, like so, and pull it up so that your little loops end up together here. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Like so. And we are going to do this for the whole ring. So like I said, it's really the best ways to sort of just kind of remember which direction you come in. So in this one I was coming, you know, in this direction and looping and going like so. And this is what I mean that the amount of yarn you're going to use is going to be dependent on the width of your yarn, the weight of it. If it's really chunky yarn, you're not going to need 20. If it's really thin yarn, like this is kind of on the thinner side of our yarn, so that's why I cut a whole bunch. And we're going to go around and do this whole thing just the same and cover it so that all of our little strands are coming out the same end, and that where we've put our little loops are all in the same spot. So I'm going to do one or two of these, and then I'm going to do some magic video editing and be back with a completely covered circle of our ring. All covered, because, you know, y'all don't want to spend all this video just watching me go over and over and over, filling in little loops here, but it can be sort of one of those like calming, very zen-like parts of crafting here when you're doing just the same step over and over to get your cute little hat brim covered. And yeah. So there you go. And you're gonna make sure that they're laying even. So like that one got a little caught on some of my paper towel roll here, but and just kind of push them together so you can't really see the brown of the paper towel in there. If you have a lighter color, you might need to push them more. If you have a thicker yarn, like I said, or a darker color, the paper towel roll doesn't show up as much. So go ahead and keep doing this step and make sure that all of your little loops are in the same direction and all of your yarn hangs off the same direction. And I'm going to magic video and be right back. And I am now just finishing up my final loop here. Then you can see what we've got. So this kind of jellyfish looking thing here. But you can see I went around and I covered and kind of made sure to spread out. This ended up being about 34 of our string because our yarn, because this is a thinner yarn that we have. So like I said, it's always better to have more than not enough. So yeah, so now we are done with our brim and we're gonna move on to our next step. Now, if you have any yarn that's like crazy longer than the others and you want to kind of trim it a little bit, you could go ahead and trim that a little bit. But this step we are going to do is we're going to take one of our little extras, and in this case, let's see, I'm going to use this orange colored one so you can see what I'm doing on camera a little better. But you could just use the same color that you have here, and you're going to take your lovely brushable yarn and you are going to tie a piece of yarn around like so at the very top of our hat thing. You can see I got it pretty far up so that it's got all of our bunchies included here. And you're gonna wanna give it a nice double knot, like so. And you can go ahead and trim off some of the ends of that. And then we are going to make our little hat top by taking this and pushing it into itself like so. And that string keeps everything together. And you know my favorite word, voila, we have our cute little winter hat almost ready to go. Pretty neat. And if you have any little shorties like this one hanging out here, you can just boop. Because some will peek through, and you know, all your string probably wasn't the exact same size, and that's okay. But there we go. So you can see how we developed our little hat shape. So we don't need the rest of this yarn. Thank you, yarn. Bye-bye. We'll put that over there. And then our next few steps we're going to need, this is where we're going to need our felt and our pom-pom and our piece of string, whatever we're using, and our glue. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Elmer's glue, the white craft glue in this instance, but you can also, like I said, use your hot glue gun. Be careful. Do not burn yourself. I have faith in you. And your scissors. So what we're going to do here is we are going to cut a piece of felt that is going to cover the weird inside where you see all of our little doodads in there. So what I like to do is when I'm finished, because I want to make sure that it actually covers everything, I'm going to take my color, I'm going to go with the yellow here, and I'm going to kind of lightly draw a very light, if it wants to here. It doesn't want to here. There we go. You know, if you've worked with the ballpoint pens, it doesn't always work right away on your felt. If you have pieces of fabric too, you don't have to use the felt. Fabric works well, just as well here. You just want to make sure you have something that you're going to glue so that your insides yarn doesn't fall out here. So you can see there's some semblance of a circle type shape. So then you're going to want to go ahead and cut that out with your scissors here, like so. You can always, once again, adjust this once you've got it cut out if it's still too big or if you want to make it smaller. And then you just kind of make sure, eyeball it, that it looks like it is good and it is covering up. I'm actually going to cut this slightly smaller here. Let's go around this way. Get some of that edge off here. And some nice, sharp, clean scissors. Look at this, gang. I made sure this time I had some scissors that weren't sticky and cut really well. So once you have that, you're gonna go ahead and take your glue, or, you know, like you said, if you're using your hot glue, you're gonna wanna be heating it up and make sure that it's ready to go when it's time to do our gluing here. And you are going to just take a bead of your white glue and you're gonna go around here, like so. Then you're going to glue that on like so and let it dry. And then once your glue has dried so that it doesn't move around and you're ready to go, we can move on to our final step here. So you're gonna want to cut a length of string, however long that you're thinking you want for your hanging on your trees, or if you're hanging these on windowsills or like whatever. You just want to make sure that you cut it to the length that is most useful for you. And I'm really sorry, this is probably impossible to see on here. I'm just realizing how thin this looks, but on the camera, so you can kind of see, there we go. Shows up a little bit here. You're just gonna want to tie a little knot at the end here so that you have a nice little loop. And we're gonna hide this underneath our little pom-pom ball so that way you won't be able to see it, but it shows, you know, doesn't really matter. But we're gonna go ahead and see if my eyesight can see this and tie this together. There we go. And we have this nice little loop that is going to hold our cool yarn pom-pom. So I'm going to trim off the ends from the knot here because I don't really need all that hanging out there. And then here, what you're going to do is you're going to place your knot in your string in the center little dip of your hat here. And you're going to take some more of your glue here, and you're going to just put a dollop right there, and then pom-pom or other fun little poof for the top. And there you go. Now you're going to wait until this is all dry, and then when everything is completely dry, you have a cute little hat ornament or decoration for your decorating needs for this holiday season and our fun winter sort of theme decorations we have all over the library as well. These make really fun gifts, and they can decorate all sorts of different sized trees. I have a really teeny tiny tree that I like to put these on, and they don't overwhelm it. But like I said, this is also something that would be really fun to just make and attach to a present that you're given, like a little decoration. So I hope y'all had some fun making this with me, and we'll give it a try at home. And I will see you all shortly for our next craft video this winter session. Thanks, everyone.